Hello, everyone. I am Sage Stevens, the host of Shout Out with Sage, and we are on Stream and Hub Radio. My guest today has amazing experience in the political spectrum. He worked for a number of high-ranking political officials from 2011 to 2016, which landed him the opportunity and position as press lead on a presidential campaign for President Trump. Later on, through tenacity and perseverance, he became a presidential appointee during the Trump administration at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And after leaving federal service, he became director of operations for a nonprofit organization, the HUD of Tallahassee FSU, where he has dedicated his time and efforts helping Rabbi Ortman rebuild their synagogue that was lost in a tragic fire. The fire took place under suspicious circumstances and occurred during a time where anti-Semitic groups were protesting. However, the fire was ruled accidental. Things to consider. And today, I would like to welcome to the show Mason Alexander, who goes by Alex. Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm good, Miss Sage. How are you doing, darling?
I'm good. So I read that you started as well in the event arena. Is that true? Is that where you started in events?
Yeah, I started at events and stuff like that, just hosting parties, doing things like that. Friends, family, folks, things like that. And that kind of started with when I was working in the business of I just kind of really enjoyed the organization and organizing different aspects of events. And, open houses are basically just one big party that you get people to come to try to sell the house. And there's nothing better than throwing a good party, So if the party's good, you're raising money, you're selling houses, you're getting people elected. So it all comes down to how you entertain and get folks involved. So.
Did you always want to go into events, or it just because of that just sort of happened for you?
It just kind of, everything for me has kind of just, I've gone with the flow and where I've been pulled. I always say I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I just kind of get tugged in these certain directions. And it's in those directions where I have become successful at. It's just knowing what your gut is telling you and what your abilities are and what you're successful at. I enjoy doing party planning, but I also enjoy office management, office direction, and running a staff and getting things moving and going. So it's just using both of those aspects of my talents of what I'm good at innately that has just flourished. And so so it wasn't really just one direction that I was going into. It was just following what I like to do. It's kind of like when you're at a restaurant. You order the chicken piccata or the tiramisu, and you never change because it's what you love doing. It's what you love eating. It's what you enjoy. And that's led me to where I ended up climbing to a very high ladder. So it's been a blast. I've loved it.
How did that happen for you when you say high ladders? So you went from event planning into sort of the political sphere. Explain to us the transition. How did that all happen for you? Because I was reading in your bio and I'm like, okay, how did all this come about?
It's extremely odd. It all started with Meredith O'Rourke, and I moved to Tallahassee in 2008, 2009, and went to Tallahassee Community College, and then was going to transition into FSU, and wanted to go for communications, and didn't know what I was going to do with it. It was again a calling and a pull, and through that, Meredith and I had started talking, and she needed some help with some events. She is a very high-profile political fundraiser, and she just needed some help. And I was like, yeah, why not? And through that, it was just, it just kind of hit it off. The event went great. And she's like, this is very much within your realm. She was like, so natural at this. And it takes a lot for people just to be able to walk into a room of complete strangers and say, hi, my name's Alexander, and I'm here with this candidate. And will you write a check for $100,000? And
that's a special skill. That's a special skill. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And it was I enjoy, you know, and it was just one of those, there was a lot of joy and happiness that I was getting from it because I'm in a room with amazing, life-changing people. And I'm learning from them different aspects of all courses of life. And just to be around such influence and learning from them, you know, that's where I enjoyed. And again, it's one of those, when you know how to just put things together and make sure, the important part is making sure that the event goes smoothly. You know, I always have the saying that behind me, the house looks like it's on fire. And the press is up there and is like, sir, the house is on fire and there's children on the second floor and everything is under control. We have planned for this to happen and we have taken all precautions. The children are going to be safe. Everything's going to be good. But sir, you have lost the top 5 floors. We saw that coming. We've already taken, you know, preemptive movement, you know, and inside it's kind of like, okay, now I got to really figure this out. And it's being able to think quickly and on top, you know, right off the cuff, and to make sure that it doesn't matter if the house is on fire, everything was taken care of just as you had supposedly planned it, even though you had no idea what your next step was going to be. The people that were around you were like, holy moly, like this was amazing. And you're like, I need a drink, you know,
exactly.
You know, and it's all about being able to hold it down when I say it's showtime. When it's showtime, you know, it's like they say in a league of their own. There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in events. You don't have time to really think. You have to just go with it. And
go.
Yeah,
yes,
so
definitely.
And that, you know, being under high pressure situations like that, basically all of my life. And anybody that's worked in a family business understands the pressures that you get, especially from your parents and your mother, that you're expected to do certain things. You have to come up with the answers quick.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and love my mother. She was the best person I could have had that trained me as a CEO. But it was just, gave me the abilities to be able to quickly think, resolve issues, and keep moving forward, you know, without anybody realizing case of one that was supposed to be there for people never showed up, you know. It's just about being that kind of an A person.
I remember I come from an event production background as well. And I worked for, what was it called? IFP, Independent Filmmaker Project on the East Coast. And I remember it's like you said, like there's all these fires that you're putting out. And I remember people came up to me at the end of the evening, that like the board of directors, oh, this event was so great. They were giving me compliments. And I'm like, I was like this one lady, she was so sweet. I'm like telling her the things that went wrong. And she's like, listen, honey, you just say thank you and then move on. And it was the biggest, I still remember this to this day. And the lady's name was Judy Altman. And I remember, I will never forget that piece of advice she gave me. It was just pretend everything was supposed to be the way it was and just say thank you, even though to get it going, you had to, like, you know, run down the street and roll out the red carpet yourself in a gown because the people didn't show up, and, you know, whatever you had to do to make it happen, there you are. So
yeah, everything went as scheduled to plan. If everybody's happy, that was what was supposed to happen.
Exactly. If they thought it was fabulous, it was fabulous. So
it was fantastic. Yes.
Right. How did you go from, like, so you were in those, doing those events, and then you ended up, I read I was doing some research on you, and in Dr. Peter A. Wish's book, The Candidate's 7 Deadly Sins, he actually thanked you for your tireless effort behind the scenes in organizing many fundraising events. So how do you I'm just going to say, how do you get money from people at a fundraising event?
So for political sides, especially with, I will say, Dr. Peter Wish is salt of the earth guy. He is just absolutely amazing, spiritually, mentally, physically. He's just a great guy. And he and I had a connection because as you're at those events, you know, you get what they call bundlers. You get people that, you know, help you and will go into their because
sorry, you broke up a little bit there. Say that lots.
Is it there? Is it back?
Yeah.
That so you go to these bundlers, okay, that they are. And what a bundler is someone that may not be able to write that $250,000 or more check, but they know people that can write 15, 20, 25, and they will bring you the 250. And that's where Peter kind of came in certain aspects. And it's really just building those relationships. It's being able to establish a communication with them and making your intentions clear, because we've had many people that would come to the events and say, oh, we're going to do this and that and the other. And as you know, they just kind of show up because they want to get their selfie with somebody and they want to have the free little dinner. And they're like, oh, well, I know I said I was bringing the check, but here's $40. And it's kind of like, okay, well, it's 10,000 a plate.
You're a little short.
Just a little bit. And so, but it's just a lot of it, especially when it comes to that kind of fundraising and within those groups, you have to, it goes with picking your candidate, and that's where a lot of people, and it even goes back, not just a candidate, but any job that you're going to, a career, your boss, it's as they're interviewing you, you need to be interviewing them. Is this someone you believe in? Are you passionate about their mission? Do you believe in their cause? Because when you believe in them and you believe in what they're working for, then when you're trying to ask for those dollars and those numbers, it's easier because you actually believe in what you're trying to raise the money for, which it then comes off very natural because, again, you believe in the mission. And so same thing, you're working for somebody, if you believe in how they work, they run their office, the job that you're doing, then it really isn't a job. You're doing what you enjoy. And that's what's always, I had a gentleman one time, I was working for Rick Scott, and at the end of the event, we're sitting there talking, and he goes, thank you guys so much. This is a great opportunity. And, if there's anything I can ever do, just let me know. And I said, well, the 25 you gave was great, but 50 would be better. And he took out his checkbook, wrote another check. And Governor Scott looked and he just was like, that was awesome, But again, it also goes down to never be afraid of the no. And when it comes down to, especially fundraising, is that people are always afraid to ask for the high numbers. Start off high. It's the same thing when I was going for my salaries and stuff like that. I went high because if I didn't start high enough, then they're going to lowball you. And then you get stuck with the lower number.
They're gonna, what's the word I'm looking for? They're gonna barter. Like they're gonna, if you ask for whatever, they're gonna cut it in half and whatever. So definitely. And
so when you're talking to guys that have tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, they don't want you to come in and ask for 5,000 or 1,500. To them, that's kind of insulting. Kind of like, you think I can only afford $5,000? Did you not see my 757 I flew went on? They're expecting those higher numbers, and they'll let you know $500,000 is not. But I'll do 250. I'll do and just start from there. And they're going to let you know. And after a while, you build a rapport with these guys where they will give consistently certain digits, certain numbers that you just know automatically. This person will give this much, this, that, and the other, and you can call them up and be like, "Hey, we got an event coming up. Love for you to come. Can you do such and such?" And they'll be like, "Great, my American Express number is." And which I will tell you blew my mind that the money these guys, one guy told me we put it on his card and he was like, okay, great. My wife now has to be able to take her friends on the American Express points, which is this one donation, but so a lot of it is just not being afraid of the no and not being afraid to ask the hard questions. So
so just ask for it. Basically what you're saying is just ask for what you need. And don't be afraid. And is there a time where you were afraid of like anything in your career? Was there any moment where you sort of had to get some backbone going and move forward?
So we talked about this earlier the other night when you were here at the Chateau.
Yeah.
I've always worked under the weird pressure of, how do I not get fired today? And that was always my thing. What do I need to do to not get fired? And that gave me more of a gumption to really excel and go forward. So there have been tons of challenges, through all aspects of the career that I've had and the journeys that I've been on. I never in my life thought I would be in politics. And I ended up doing fundraising and then becoming an appointee, working at, one of the departments, one of the major departments. And, and a lot of it is just, you have to be willing to do your research. You have to be willing to expand your knowledge. And you have to have, again, that passion of something you want to do. I've always had the passion of wanting to help people. I've always pushed people ahead of me. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the background research. I enjoyed being in the background, and as long as my boss was happy, that's all that mattered, and there's been things that people have said, I was rough, I was tough, I was this, I was that. Had to be, because it was the expectation of the person that I was working for. They ask for certain things, and a lot of people understand it when you're dealing with powerful people and they say, this is what I want, and they make sure you understand this is what they want. You got to figure out how to get it to them. And not everybody's going to agree with it from the bottom lines up. And it's like, I am so sorry, but this is what we have to do today. I know people don't agree with it, but unless you want the job here because you're working for this person, this is what we have to do right now. So yeah, we're getting up at 4 a.m., having to catch a flight, and you just got to go with it. And again, there's a lot of great things that come with all positions and careers, and there's going to be things you don't like. But again, when you enjoy what you're doing, the things you don't like are so minuscule that it really doesn't matter, but a lot of it is just being willing to put forth the effort and learning what it is you need to do to make sure that the goal is ultimately achieved.
When you were appointed by President Trump to HUD, did you experience any trepidation since you were coming from the event management to the housing?
Absolutely. Because there was an article that was written about me and a couple of the appointees and stuff like that. That was, they called one person that was just a wedding planner for Trump. And they said I was an events planner and just a fundraiser. And here we are at HUD and stuff like that, dealing with policies and, dealing with our housing issues. But what people don't understand is that when you're in an office and it all comes down to papers and numbers. Papers, numbers, and meetings and memos and emails. That's in every job.
Just being organized. You just need to be an organized person, right?
Exactly. And when you can look and see what's going on, especially for us that came from a different aspect of life. I did choose HUD because I came from a family of real estate, so I had a background in real estate. Okay. And so when I got to HUD, it was very easy to see some of the issues. But people get so institutionalized in these agencies that they're just like, we're just going to do the same mundane thing over and over and over again. Whether it works or not, we're just going to do it until it actually breaks, and then we'll deal with it. But then you have and this is with every, appointee that comes in from any president, you get a fresh batch of eyes looking at the issues, and especially with all this stuff. So you're looking at people that are being able to look at something and see something that maybe someone else didn't catch, or come up with a better idea.
A fresh perspective, basically you're a consultant coming in with a fresh pair of eyes, giving advice on whatever the problems are. So.
Yeah. And so while I was at HUD, I had two positions there. One was the director of operations and scheduling, and, dealing with Secretary Carson's schedule and the events that we would do and going to our communities and things like that. And then also from there, I got promoted as a senior advisor to the Assistant Secretary of Administration, which was dealing more with the internal staff of the agency. And I just really enjoyed, because to me, when you have staff with you and you encourage them and you push them, and that was a big pusher, and people got that and understood that, because I wanted to empower people to do and have the ability to do their job. I'm not a micromanager. If I got to micromanage you, it's only because I'm phasing you out of that position because you just aren't doing it, but I give you the power to do what it is that you need to do. Just, here's our goal. I need 1 and 1 to equal 2. Don't care how you get there. Toss it in fractions. As long as I get 2, I'm happy. I don't, and that a lot of it is just with that. So having a very strong background in office management, I've worked at McDonald's, I've worked in the fast food restaurants, and it comes from a customer service side. To me, when you're in that and when you're doing that kind of work, I looked at it as everybody's my customer. The employees and the staff that are there, they are my customer. I have to make sure they have the tools, they have the things that they need. So therefore, they get to do their jobs. And when they excel, it makes me look good because my staff is excelling. and we're all working together as a team. So it's like a full win-win. You know, I used to do what I call Pastries Friday, where every Friday I always brought in, you know, donuts, and oh my God, there was a place up in DC called Best Buns, but they had the best honey buns. And I would bring them into the office on Fridays, you know, because that was like, hey, we had a great week. Here you go. Here's our treat. Or, you know, treating them out to lunch and things like that. And that really would get people going, because it was like, oh, we didn't get our snacks this week. It was like, well, instead of that, we really got to have a talk. There's a meeting coming up. You know, we don't have time for snacks but that's just being able to organize and basically choreograph an office space and talent. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was your greatest accomplishment when you had that position at HUD?
Honestly, I would say my greatest accomplishment at HUD was just being able to get a bunch of the staff together and the different departments within the agency to actually start communicating. You know, the Assistant Secretary of Administration, Suzanne Tufts, a phenomenal woman. And, you know, that's what we tried to coordinate together. You know, she and I were literally the hands, you know, for the staff. And there were some tough decisions. You know, a lot of people didn't like some things we had to do, but it had to be done. You know, it's taxpayer dollars. And that's what a lot of people don't really look at, that this is money that people are stroking checks for, and people that don't have the money that's coming out of their paychecks, it can't be wasted. Not 1 cent can be wasted. And there's a lot of hard calls, but we were able to really start getting things running a lot more efficient, you know, due to the reduction in waste that was there, where there was duplications of activities that were happening in departments. We were able to combine them now. And so that would be one of our, I can't say me because we did it as a team. Right. You know, I am a firm believer in there is no I in team. You know, there may be a me in there, but there is no I. And so everything we did together, you know, team wise, that was our success, because we reduced waste, we promoted, and everybody was able to excel. So it was just a great time.
If someone was wanting to get into politics, what would your biggest advice be?
Don't. No, to those that want to get in politics, I will say, get ready for no sleep. You know, it is a 24/7. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It can be your birthday. It can be Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, Christmas morning. It could be at the funeral of a loved one. And when your phone rings, there is no such thing as voicemail when your client calls. Right. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. You know, you're at a wedding, you're about to say I do, and that phone rings. You got to tell your spouse, 1 second, please. Yes, sir. You know, that's just how it is. You know, I've had clients that I thought were calling just to wish me a Merry Christmas. And it's, you know, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And they started out Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you guys are having a great time. Right. And 10 minutes after that, it's like, hey, so we got a function going on tomorrow. Where are we at? You know? Right. And so, but yeah, prepare for no sleep. You know, pick a nice little soft pillow, carry a blanket with you in your car. Right. You know, it's just a lot of work.
It's a 24/7. Right.
But the experience and the things you get to do, the people you get to meet, it's just amazing, you know, but it is a lot of tiresome hard work. A lot of people think, oh, you're just a fundraiser collecting checks and hosting parties and having wine. No, there's so much that goes behind it, even at an agency. You know, they're constantly going, you know, especially if there's a natural disaster and now you're watching hurricanes hitting Puerto Rico and you've got, you know, 45 people sitting at a conference table, literally 24 hours a day until it all goes through. You know, it's all hands on deck. So, but you got to have the power, you know, the personal power to have that want to help people, because that's what you're doing when you're in politics. You know, you're there to initially help people, you know, not so much get your candidate elected, but to get them elected because they're there to actually do something for people that actually need help within what they're trying to do and accomplish.
Yeah, I don't think, many people would perceive it that way. So that's nice to hear. Some people don't perceive politics that way. Definitely not.
Yeah, I'm a rare little bud on that one, because to me, everybody that I've worked for, I believed in a good portion of what they were doing, you know, and every president, every governor, every senator, every congressman comes in with wanting to do something for somebody. They want to do something good. They want something to leave a legacy by. And it's hard because if you make one mistake, that's all they're going to focus on. But they're not going to focus on the
all the
veterans that
other
are no
good
longer
things,
sleeping.
right.
Yeah. They don't focus on the veterans who now are no longer sleeping on a bench because of the policies your administration came through, or the homelessness issues where, a nice portion of it is now being reduced because there was legislation that was passed within the state that got them off the streets. They're like, oh, well, you took 100 people off the streets, but what about the other 500? Well, it all takes time. But by the time it comes through, somebody else comes in and redoes everything. It's just
right. It's a big change. Yes.
Yeah.
You were mentioning, that is sort of a 24/7 job when you're doing events or politics. How did you have a problem with balancing, your life with your work, or you were just all work at that time?
At that time, it was what I believed in my spouse, which was a huge mistake, that we were in it together as a team. And we understood the function of the goal. It was to be able to set things up for the future. And this was a sacrifice that we were making now to be able to do things in the future. And so, but they too got to benefit because they would come down to events. They got to stay at the hotels and, as I say, be the housewife, as he was, because while I'm working and stuff like that, they're enjoying the spa, they're having the room service, and we would hang out in the evenings. So we tried to keep it together as much as we could. But there was a lot of sacrifice there, and I do that debate. Would I do it over again and save possibly the relationship? And, and it came down to, I would, because there was no saving the relationship, and that was a choice they made because they wanted a whole other different path. And that was just that. So, but it's just, as long as you keep the communication going. And right now, I think it's so easy between FaceTime and having cell phones and everything else. You can always, be in contact and watch. And, it'd be tougher, I think, if you have children. That's a whole other aspect, But if you're single, or especially if it's just you and your spouse, that as long as you come up with that game plan of, hey, we're going to have dinner by Zoom and we're still going to communicate and we're still going to be together, and then it can totally work. But children, I think you'd really have to really think, because you're going to be missing out on a lot of first moments. We're talking first words, first steps, first hit of the T-ball, proms, it's
a sacrifice.
Huge.
Right.
But the benefit at times does outweigh sometimes.
When we first met at Chateau Marmont, we chatted about your divorce, and you were very open with me about certain things and how alone you felt at that time, and that you actually started opening up on TikTok. You posted TikTok videos, and you were sort of vulnerable about what you were going through. So tell me, how. I mean, I would be afraid to do that, to be that vulnerable, but you said that it really helped you in your healing process. And so I was wondering if you could explain a bit about that.
And I'm still healing. That's been this whole journey I've been on, which led me to LA, which led me to you, to all of this. It's just, but no, when I came home and all of their things were gone because they packed up and left, because I can't say what they said here, but I'll just say they decided to choose a different path of life.
You shared what that was, and yes. Thanks for not sharing that.
It just was it was traumatic for me. And
of course,
but to have it literally just ripped away in an instant, and it just life-changing, and it destroyed me. I lost my husband. I lost my friends. I lost my person, the one that I thought, what I call my apocalypse buddy, that we would have been back to back fighting to the bitter end. And now here I am, solely and completely alone, because they had flipped the narrative in the story. And, when you have nobody to talk to except for your two cats, it gets very depressing. And this is kind of where I was working for Rabbi Achman over at the HUD. And I have to say, he has been and was the most beautiful boss anybody could have asked for. Because during that time, when losing everything, that I completely went into a meltdown, went into a complete shutdown of myself. And for 2 months, I did not leave the house at all.
Oh, wow.
And he would come over and he didn't ask, he just told me, when you can come back when you're ready. And not once did he miss a paycheck. And I took 2 months, didn't answer an email or nothing because I completely caved in.
Mm.
And that's when I discovered TikTok. And that, because feeling so alone, it was kind of like, I was having very deep, dark thoughts. And it was kind of like my last will and testament and my last words. And I wanted my story to at least kind of be out there, what I was feeling and going through and feeling all alone, that by posting raw and being completely open on how emotional I was. I started at 225 and I lost and went down to 151 pounds at 6'3".
Oh, wow.
So when I look back at that first video that I did, and I could see how concaved my face was sitting in my chair, it was very frightening for me to see that now. But I just started to talk and tell people what I was going through and what was happening. And all of a sudden, people were reaching out and saying, I'm going through the same thing. This is what's going on with me. And this is how I'm happy, And I started then doing the TikTok lives and just being able to talk to people and not thinking that these people would end up becoming real life friends, and it's just, I can't tell you how much these guys have helped me, and, I will say a quick little shout out to, to Chase,
Yes.
because there was a time where I was saying goodbye and he kind of was like, and he called me directly and he was like, what are you doing? And, he is the reason why I'm still here today. Because he took the time and saw what was happening and what I was going through. And he stood on the phone with me for like 5 hours that night. And
wow.
So that really led into just a friendship and a community of just all just there for each other, where we talk about what's happening. He's called me when he's had issues and crying in the car and being heartbroken. And, it's just, there's a community within TikTok where it's not just dance videos and challenges of eating, I don't know, whatever, thing to kind of spit out and all this stuff, but it has really joined together in a community of mental health awareness and letting people know that you may feel that you are completely isolated and that you are completely alone and that there is nobody in your life because nobody called me. And when you just start talking to people and they're reaching out, it just, it just, without that app, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you today.
Wow.
It's just, it sounds so stupid. It sounds so, trust me, but it was because I'm a very sociable person. I mean, look what I did.
I mean, you have to talk to people. You can't be in events and not talk to people. So, yeah. So
to go from a world where you're talking with hundreds of people a day, and then now you're back at home and you're in an office of 3 people, and you had a social life of like 15 to 20 friends that you went on vacation every year with to different locations and always doing dinners and the birthday dinners and the parties at the house, and now all of a sudden it's crickets. It's a huge shock. It's a huge shock.
Yes, it's a lot to go. It's a lot to go through. How did you sort of get over that? Like you just got over it, or you're still working?
Still working on it.
Okay.
So, one of the things through TikTok and I loved is getting to talk to other people in different countries. And I made friends with a person, Nikki, over in Australia, who would think I'd be talking to someone in Australia. And so he always tells me, darling, you're on an eat, pray, love tour, because when we had our final mediation and they were just being completely unfair, because I was just, here's the plan, 50-50, call it a day, I'm done. And they refused me because they feel very entitled and being selfish and just greed, that I just was like, okay, you're not going to be fair at all. You are literally putting me in a poorhouse and trying to take away the home and everything that really I worked for, because they were just going through school. They've only been working for a few years. And
Okay.
to now leave me basically homeless and trying to take everything and force the sale of the home. And it was tough. And at that mediation, instead of having those bad thoughts, the voices just kept saying, you have to go, leave. We got to do something. We got to get out of here. And I left. I went home that evening. That was on March 11th on a Monday. And I saw the screenshot of when I booked my ticket to Rome. I had never been to Europe. And I booked a ticket to Rome. And I left Tuesday morning. And I landed in Rome Wednesday morning. And I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks. And then 56 days later, traveling through Italy and France and England and Ireland and Spain, it just gave me a chance to be out of that house, away from all memories. I'm in completely new spaces, staying at fabulous hotels. My God. And, the food. Oh. So I was on my Eat, Pray, Love tour. And I'm still going through my journey now. And that's how you and I kind of came along.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And here we are.
You got to do the self-healing.
Okay. How important, you're talking about relationships on TikTok, but also how important is networking and relationships, not just personally, but also in your career? And do you think that has helped you fundamentally?
Absolutely. Because to me, it's everybody, there should be no reason if you're sitting somewhere, you shouldn't try to talk to the people next to you, because you never know. Same meeting with you. It was just having fun and just chit chatting with people just because I like talking. I like talking with people and just, you learn new things every day from somebody.
Exactly.
And so when it comes, especially networking, it doesn't matter what career field you're in, whether you're in politics, McDonald's, real estate, you need to be talking to everybody. And because someone can offer you an opportunity, and there could be a need that you could fill for them or a need that they can fill for you, and that's just all a part of being able to just be open and friendly with folks. There's no reason to be a schmuck, there isn't. And especially when you're out and about, just what's wrong with smiling at somebody and saying, hey, I hope you have a good day. Are you enjoying your drink?
That's so not LA. That is so not LA.
At the chateau, it seems to be.
Chateau's sometimes a little more social than some of the other places in LA. Actually, speaking of that, how do you decide what to say yes to when you're approached with a new opportunity or venture? What factors go into that decision?
Honestly, I look at it. My first question is, one, can I do it? And the second one is, how much fun is it going to be? Because whatever I do, I have to enjoy it. I have to enjoy it. For me, this comes from my mother. I've never looked at the money. It was always just, if I enjoyed what I do, the money's just going to come.
Are there?
I'm a gambler. I'll roll the dice, and trust me, I've crapped out, number of times, but you still roll the dice and you kind of hope for that, that 11 and everything else. And it works out sometimes, but you just got to enjoy what you're doing.
Are there any opportunities that you said no to that now in hindsight you wish you had said yes to? You're like, oh, I should have done that.
No, I think all the opportunities that I've turned down was, I don't know. It was that gut. There were certain people that I kind of refused to work for. I just, money was good. They threw it at you. And I always got a little leery. The more money they give you, why? No, I'm good. But, I will say one opportunity, and it's a stupid, silly little thing, is I was 19, 20 years old, working at Winn-Dixie, because I always wanted to use the scanner at the grocery store. And this guy comes up with the thing. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And he just sticks his hand and goes, shake my hand. And I was like, no, I'm good. He's like, no, just shake it. I was like, no. He goes, okay. He grabbed his groceries and he goes, I was going to give you $1 million. I just hit the lottery. And because you didn't shake my hand, you lost. And he walked out. And to this day, I still wonder about that. If I would have shook his hand, would I have got,
If it was real, right.
Yeah. But there's, because he looked like an average Joe. And especially coming now and seeing that some of the millionaires and billionaires don't look like they have it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I would have shaken that hand now.
Exactly.
I
What
shake
was-
everybody's hand.
Right. What is the biggest piece of sage advice someone has given you in regards to your career or life that really resonated with you?
So the advice that I got when it comes to the career is that it doesn't matter how hard the job is. Sometimes you just got to bite on the leather strap and just do it. Just get it done. There's going to be some difficult things. Doesn't matter where you are.
Mm.
High power, low power, medium. There's going to be things that are going to be tough, and it is your job. It is what you were employed for, and you just got to do it. And if you don't, then you have to make that decision. Okay, this is where I draw the line, and this is where I will back out now and say thank you very much for the opportunity that you have established and given me, but I have to now leave. And I've done that a number of times, because if I don't morally believe with something, I'm not going to put myself in that kind of jeopardy, even if it's just going to make me feel uncomfortable for a while. Why? Because no, so sometimes you have to make that hard decision to say, I'm going to do it, or the harder decision of it's time for me to leave.
Okay. You need to know when you need to go. So it's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
When to move on. How important is it to work hard, but also how important is it to work smarter? And do you have a tip on that?
Yeah, the smarter over harder is, if you have staff, don't be afraid to delegate. Your team wants the empowerment. They want to have the ability of free will. And when you give that to them, you're going to have such a strong team, because they're going to be with you and by you and fight for you, because you give them that opportunity for them to showcase themselves, because everybody wants the next step up. And if they can't show their abilities and their talents, why are they going to stay with you? So that's always, for me, was always the biggest thing, empowerment. But when it comes to the smarter and harder, is looking at what opportunities that are given to you, and don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to turn left if everybody's going right. It just being able to be flexible, but also at the same time, when you do make those calls and try to do it that way, be able to snap forward, and say, okay, we got to make a quick correction and go back and rechange it. But always try something new. Don't get stuck in the whole saying, oh, if it's not broke, don't fix. Mm-hmm. Sometimes just because it's not broken doesn't mean it can't do better. I mean,
right. You can be innovative and create new things, and
yeah, because if people didn't try new things and push the limits, we'd still be working on dial-up from the 80s where you can't use the phone. Exactly. We wouldn't have cell phones. You got to try something new and different.
What do you think are the necessary steps to be successful?
For myself, and it's not for everybody, right, is that be willing to go beyond the beyond and above. Be willing to know that if you're really wanting to do this and you want to progress higher, learn everything that you can, but don't come off as the know-it-all. Hold it back and only use it for when you need it, because no one likes to show off, or the suck up and all of that. It's just, so as long as you know it, that's all that matters. And just do it. And don't always have to tell everybody what you did, because trust me, when you've done something, it will get recognized. And the only time I've ever called people out is when they try to take the credit for my work. Then I'd be like, I would take the person aside and be like, not cool, but I'm just letting you know, I told them that it was actually me that did this, not you, and here was the plan that I wrote out. Right. But don't be afraid to demonstrate your work, but actually, don't be that person that's like, I did this.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you there. Just when someone, because it's happened to me, when someone else takes credit for your work, what happens if it's okay if it's someone equal, well, not, it's not okay, but when it happens to be someone equal to you or less than you, then it's always easier to call them on it. But when it's someone above you that's doing it, what's your advice there? Would you still say something, or would you hold back a little bit?
No, if it's my over,
Yeah.
that, like, if it was my boss, whatever idea I had, that was his idea.
Okay.
Because he's my boss.
Okay.
Because he knows already. Do you know what I mean? Where the idea came from. He already knows where that plan came from. And take it, own it, because you're the one signing my check. It belonged to you, and I don't need those kind of accolades to my boss tell him, but it's when it comes to an equal person and stuff like that, then normally what I would do is kind of hold back a little bit on the next time. And then that way kind of set them up for failure, I guess you could say, and let them hang themselves. Because since they're trying to run my plan, they don't know what the plan was. Right. And then as it falls apart, then I come in as the savior because it was my plan. And I make everything good, because it's kind of like, no, you got me the first time, but you won't get me the second time. But as for anybody over me, and that is my boss, yeah, my plan is your plan. So I expect you to take credit for it.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, this is Shout Out with Sage. Is there anyone that was pivotal in your career or helping you get where you are? Like someone that, assisted you, motivated you, gave you the pep talk when you needed it, or slapped you when you should have been doing something?
The hard part, I can't say there's really just one person.
Well, you can mention
because
yeah.
They're for me, it was really a tribe, and everybody had their own specific role, and obviously my mother, Susan, she gave me the ability to be able to sometimes just suck it up and do what you got to do. She was firm, she was loving, but she was tough, and without that, it wouldn't have been able to lead me into, the abilities of working with Meredith and doing that kind of high-powered stuff. I was never afraid to ask the hard questions, and she gave that ability to me. She always told me, don't be afraid of the no, because it could have been a yes. My aunt, my Aunt Denise was a powerful, and my Uncle Jer, powerful people in my life, because they were the ones that let me know that there's more opportunities out there than what I thought were out there. They're the ones that encouraged me to go back to school. And without that encouragement of getting into Tallahassee, I wouldn't have been on the path that I was in. Right. And I will even give a shout out to the soon ex-husband, Andrew, that he has taught me so much in this last year of what to look out for a narcissist. And when it comes to mental abuse and emotional abuse, that, I will thank him for that, because I will not ever make that same mistake twice, and I'll never have a shared bank account with anybody ever again.
Okay. Good to know.
So, but no, there's been so many people. I could just go on and on, even down to Secretary Carson and all these other folks that I learned so much from. It's just been an amazing ride.
You were an event planner in many political campaigns. Is there a difference between planning a political event and a normal event, like, a gala or fundraiser, or are there certain things that separate the two?
Honestly, the only thing that separates them is the quality of food. At fundraisers, we always say it's beer, wine, and peanuts. We're not spending a lot of money on food and things like that. It's just, but other than that, it's all the same. The people are the same. There's always going to be, especially at the galas and stuff like that, there's always the one that's hosting the event, which is basically your client. And that's the one you got to make happy, which is the same, whether it's a president, senator, congressman. They are the ones that the event is there for. They are the host of the event, and they're the main draw. It's all basically the same. It's just making sure that everybody that's there has a good time. When you're at the galas, they're there to have a good time. They're there to dance and have fun and raise money, for whatever charity they're doing. And same thing at the political events. If everybody's having a good time, people weren't inclined to write checks. That's why I know that one guy doubled his contribution from 25 to 50 because he was having a good time. You know, the happier people are, the easier they are to give. And that's why they always have the beer and the wine and the liquor flows freely at these events. You know, they want those extra zeros at the silent auction, you know,
Exactly.
because again, good times, good memories, and there we go. So, but it's all the same.
Right. How does someone from a Catholic background like yourself find themselves dedicating their time to rebuild a Chabad in Tallahassee?
I know we always say it's kind of crazy. I do. He is an amazing, amazing person. And I think that's what it kind of came down to is when we sat down together and we were talking, it was, like I said, I interview the people I'm working for just like they're interviewing me. And I loved his spirit. I loved the personality and I loved his energy. There's so much energy in Rabbi Achman that it's just, yeah, it was just amazing. And for me, it was everybody deserves their own personal house of worship. You know, for myself, it's either in my bathtub or in my living room or just out in nature. You know, I'm very spiritual, not so much a religious side. And, you know, so to have, you know, especially the students at FSU, Florida State University, to have the Jewish students there lose their synagogue, lose their house of worship, their community center, that's devastating, you know, especially when they're just trying to get through school and now lost this. That it was a lot of work to get their temporary situation that we have going up right now. You know, we raised well over just about $500,000 for it, and they're debt free from it. You know, we were able to raise enough that it was all, but that's only the temporary situation because it's a modular, it's a quad trailer. And so we have plans to build a beautiful new synagogue that will represent all the students of FSU and the Jewish community locally and within the student body to bring them all together. You know, because
sorry, could you repeat that last little bit for me? You broke up a little bit.
Oh, that it was to bring them all together at the Chabad to build the new establishment that they're building, the new synagogue, because it's not just a church. It's not just their synagogue. It is their house of learning. You know, it's where students come to do homework. It's where they come to feel safe. And so this time around, because the building they were previously in was a very, very old building. I think it was built in the early 50s, I think it was. So this one, there wasn't, you know, security measurements that should have been put in place. And that's why this time it's making it not only secure, but enjoyable, you know, just like it was previously. Yeah. So that's what drew me to it, is just to be able to give them a home, give them, as we say, their home away from home, you know, give them a home away from home. And I always make the joke that coming from the political arena, you know, and now being into a nonprofit religious organization, I need to get those karma points at least to a 0 for all the stuff I had to do in politics. You know, so that way when I finally do pass, it's like, okay, I got 1 point above, I'm in. Because just like elections, you only have to be 1 ahead, and that was that. I just need 1 good point. So.
With nonprofits, what makes a successful nonprofit? Like, how do you, like, because I've worked in the nonprofit space as well, and a lot of them, you know, they're underfunded, understaffed. Well, not all, but some, and you know, it's a very working there. You know, you definitely have to. It's like what you said before. I mean, you have to really believe in the mission, and you have to believe in what they're doing. So again, back to how does someone make a nonprofit successful?
You have to make sure that the person that's running the nonprofit has a good team. And that's why the Rabbi and I got along. And because we are a great team together. We are a tough team. And we're more like brothers, you know, because we will go at it and just have those hard, tough, loud conversations. But we still have much respect for each other, where we never say anything that's truly out of line. And because he is so passionate, just like I am, you know, I come from the atmosphere where I'm passionate about is there is going to be no waste. We're going to do all the right things. And he's right there with in agreement with it. And he encourages me to make sure that we are not wasteful and that we are using every dollar that comes in those doors, as it should be for the students, and for of the community. And the best thing for me was looking at, especially with the nonprofits, is look and see what they do for the community. Look and see what they do for their members that are there. Because if you're with a nonprofit and you're kind of noticing that they're not really giving to where it should be given, who's really profiting?
Right.
And that's why for me being there, it was everything we did was going to the right areas, was going to the students, it was going to the communities. That's where it was when we had the hurricanes and the storms and tornadoes that have come through the Tallahassee, and not just Tallahassee, but through Florida, and down in South Florida when all those storms happened. To me, it's kind of like, oh, there's a HUD down there. Can we be helpful? What can we do? Rabbi, next thing you know, he's down there trying to see exactly what they need. And he's calling up saying, hey, I need 17 generators. We need to get these buildings up. We don't need just single generators. We need buildings because all the food, because all the kosher food that's going to go bad and be destroyed. And we made sure we reached out to our donors and to our local communities and reached out to everybody. And we had generators brought out, There were many of the letters that he received was just thanking them, because other places didn't have AC, they didn't have water, they didn't have electric, and we're helping everybody down there as much as we can. And so that to me shows that I enjoyed what I was doing, because again, I love helping people, and we were helping hundreds, if not thousands of people that were in a devastating situation, and it's nice to see that people recognize that. And that's why he and I very much are hand in hand, fist in fist, because it's for the people. I felt like an old commercial, for the people, by the people, but he was it's just a great guy that does what he says he's going to do.
That's an amazing story. Thanks for sharing. Where do we see you in the future? What's up going forward?
That is the biggest crapshoot of my life. I have no idea where the dice are
you're
landing.
Still on your Eat, Pray, Love tour. So what are we going to do?
And I'm one of those right now. It's because I know I need change in my life. This has been the last 2 months and 3 months now, getting back to my roots and healing my soul and healing my heart. And actually now for the first time, I'm actually being selfish, because I'm doing things I want to do without any consideration of anybody else. Because every time I went on a trip where we did something, it was, oh, what would you like to do? Where would you like to eat? I always thought of them first. And I was kind of tagging along because I would enjoy it too. This time I'm doing what I want to do. And I don't know, I still have my connections and stuff, talking with the rabbi and stuff. And I knew with me leaving and stuff like that, I needed to back away from everything, because I was working literally in my memories there. Where my office was where all the good times were. And it was very hard being surrounded by all those good memories. And it was devastating. It was so hard. I mean, it killed me every day driving to the office. I would cry. And, the one thing I did come through with my Eat, Pray, Love tour is I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to actually get rid of the house, sell it. And I just want to just start something new.
Sorry, you broke up again a little bit.
Oh,
could you repeat that last sentence?
Yeah, that I'm just wanting to start new and fresh, So I'm currently looking for a job and a different position elsewhere, and seeing what falls in my lap and what I can do for other people. But I'm just winging it. I've always been that structured guy. I've got the plan. I've got to do this and do this. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be here for 3 weeks. I was only going to be in LA for a week. And I keep saying, I was only going to be in Europe for 3 weeks. Yeah. I was going to be in Europe for 3 weeks. I was there for 56 days. It was just, right. I would decide what I'm going to do the next day, and I'm just kind of, who knows where I'm going to be. I just know that this is the time of Alexander. This is my time, because I'm going to promote myself this time. I'm going to push myself this time, and I'm going to do things for myself, because I know what I like to do, and I love helping people. I love helping those that want to be successful. I like being in the background of somebody successful, pushing them forward, and people knowing my name but not knowing my face so much, and
the man behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Making things
because
happen.
I definitely know that the ex-husband would not have achieved the successes he had without my help. Between his raises that I would push him to get, how to negotiate for his raises, all of that stuff. I will take credit for that because that was me. And that's not me just being arrogant. That's me being truthful.
Okay. To go back to something you previously just said about the past, you also mentioned in your TikTok videos that to put your past in your past. Can you
Yes.
explain what you mean by that? Because I know many people struggle with leaving their past behind and not having, maybe shame. Maybe you did something stupid, or maybe there's something that, was a bit more traumatic that happened to you that's, sticking with you. How do you move forward, and how do you leave that in the past?
Yeah. When it comes to leaving your past behind you and moving forward, that is still, it's a long process and something I'm still doing every day. I wasn't perfect. Don't get me wrong. I was not perfect. I made my mistakes. And it's being okay knowing that you just have to know I'll just say it this way. You can't change anything that you just did a second ago and prior. Once you've done it, you've done it. You drop the glass and it's broken, it's broken. What are you going to do it from there? So you have to not so much think and worry about yesterday, but live in this very singular moment that's happening right now. This is where it counts, because what you're focusing on is tomorrow. You're focusing on the next hour from now, because you can't change anything that you just said, anything you just broke, anything you just did. It's done. It's out there. There is no eraser in time. The only thing is heal and move forward and do better. And that is it, is focusing on, okay, I did this. What am I going to do now? And you make that plan and you move forward with it, but you can't always be dwelling on the past. And I'm still learning that. I'm still trying to push myself for that, because trust me, there is nothing more in this world that I truly will tell you. I hate saying this because it kills me every time. I would want nothing more. Sorry.
No.
And had to knock on that door. Because I still love him. But that's in the past. He's never going to knock on that door again. So I'm still working to be okay with that, because it is my time. And there's going to be somebody better that's going to treat me like I've treated them. So, yeah.
Exactly. You have to let that person go so you can make room for someone better to come into your life. And because if you keep holding on to the past or that person, you're not making room for someone new to take that space. So
you get stuck in the love memory of what you thought was there.
Well,
and
it goes in your head. And you just go through. And the thing is too, what I also notice is, like, when you break up with someone or you move on, when you think about your past relationship, I don't know what it is. You tend to think about only the good stuff. You don't think about all the bad stuff anymore. like when you're in the relationship, you're like, oh, I hate this person and they did this.
They're not cleaning the house and
exactly. But then when you break up or you leave, you just tend to focus on you put it on this pedestal all of a sudden. I don't know why we do that.
Because I can tell you why. Because we start to learn and realize that because you were arguing over vacuuming the living room because they would never do it, and you're now having to do all of the yard work and now all of the housework, it doesn't matter. The floor doesn't need to be vacuumed. The couch doesn't need to be fluffed, and the bed doesn't need to be made. It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters was just the happiness of the people. And we tend to realize that when you lose it.
Way too late. Yeah, way too
late.
And I mean, well, you do have to keep your house clean, but
oh, absolutely.
You don't want the bugs coming, but
I'm a little, there's things I'm very proud of. It was my home, and but it was just like in all aspects, it was like I should have just had a maid come in 3 days a week instead of one because, that kind of stuff,
Right.
and that's just something that I have learned and I will move forward with. And just also knowing that I need to be a better communicator because I'm great at work, telling people exactly what I'm thinking and what we're doing. But I just couldn't communicate within the relationship because they were not a communicator as well. They were what I called emotionally muted. They had no emotion. We used to. There was a story which is kind of funny. I'll just tell you about it. That we were on Thanksgiving. We go to the fishing dock at my aunt's house, and we're all out there, my nieces and nephews and stuff like that. And my niece Lexi, we're all talking, and I forget how we were talking about death. And I said, "Yeah, Andrew's not a big crier." He would just be like, "Oh, I'm sad. They passed away." And Lexi goes, "Well, I mean, you would cry if I passed away." And he goes, "Well, I would have a moment of silence for you." It was just like, but that was them.
That's it. Yeah.
But they took that aspect as to not being able to really talk how they were really feeling and what was going on inside. And I took that as a personal dig because I'm Italian and Puerto Rican. So we're loud, we talk with our hands. And I thought I could force those feelings out into telling me what it is they were feeling. And the more I tried to fight about it, the last argument we had is, why can't you just say you love me? And the more I was yelling about it, the tighter they became inside and shut down. Because they couldn't express their feelings. They didn't know how to. They were just inept in that way, and it is what it is, but we're moving forward, but that's why leaving the past in the past and knowing that you can't fix it, it's just trying to really focus on what you can do today. How can you make your life easier today? How can you make your life better today? And what can you do for somebody else to make them better as well? Whether it's just inviting them down for a drink or helping someone tie their shoe, there's so many things you can do. So, but that's why I'm still here at the chateau, and I was supposed to leave today, and I'm not leaving.
Well, I guess maybe I'll see you later for a drink, maybe.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that.
Okay, and with that, I want to not welcome you. I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity for this. I just greatly appreciate it. This has definitely added another notch in my whole little tour, so this has been wonderful. It's a pleasure meeting you. Yes. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. They're doing a little art show down here with some artists opening a gallery up in New York somewhere. So there's
awesome. Good to know. Thanks for the scoop.
Shh, I don't want to get thrown out because they're secret about stuff. You know how it is.
Okay. Yeah.
At the chateau. So, but it was just, people to know, and I'll end it with this by saying, you have to take care of you before you can take care of somebody else. And as far as you try to help other people, don't sacrifice yourself, because I'm learning that way too late. I've sacrificed myself for everybody that's been in my life. I've sacrificed one way or another for them. And I always got burned. And now I'm doing it for myself. And just know that you're not alone. There's other people that feel the same pain, but the story may be different, but the pain is exactly the same. And always just be there for each other. There's nothing wrong with smiling with somebody and just saying, hey, I hope you're having a good day. Can I help you? Yes. So.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Alex. Thanks for sharing your story with us and all your advice on parties and events and fundraisers. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Eat, Pray, Love tour and throughout wherever you end up next. So I want to thank you again for being here, and keep in touch. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we will see you on another next Wednesday. Thanks. At
4:00. And as always, as I say, be good, be safe, and be careful.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again, Alex, for being here. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.